So whenever I do news-related stuff, I try to make it so that I'm not just saying, "Hey, this happened." Like I'm trying to add to stuff, trying to teach like lessons or like things we can learn from this. Try to clear up any misconceptions that happen, and that's kind of going to be what this is. Just going through like 5 or 6 different stories that have come out in the last like day, and really just saying like, "Hey, here's some clearing up stuff. Here's a bit of information you might not know." So hopefully that's what happens here as you're watching this. But the first thing, I've already done a video of this, so I'm skipping right to this. Trump is announcing that all troops are being pulled out of Syria, that we're pretty much done. He says ISIS has been defeated, and that's pretty much it. Now, again, I'll leave a link in the description if you want to see like my section on that, where I added it's mostly true, like cleared up some little stuff like that about how powerful ISIS actually is, and are we going to leave a power vacuum, that kind of stuff. But we're jumping right to here, where apparently he announced like just a day later, or maybe it was actually just later that day, that he's going to withdraw 7,000 troops from Afghanistan, which appears to be roughly half of how many we have in there. Now, we've been in Afghanistan for quite a long time, and honestly, can the average person actually say what we're still doing in Afghanistan? For the most part, we're just fighting like little terrorist pockets here and there, but for the most part, it's time to leave. Like, it's time to get out. And remember that we're not actually leaving Afghanistan, too. We're just pulling out half of our troops, which is great. We're not even like licensed to actually be in there. We do not have a declaration of war from Congress. This is something where it's actually illegal, like how U.S. law works, to be in there. It's so honestly, I'm all for this, and I think everyone should be too. This has been going on for over a decade. We really don't need to be here. And again, it's like how long, when's the time to end is basically what it is. When are we going to end? Because remember that if we haven't accomplished our goal in this long, like, when are we going to do it? That's what it all comes down to. There isn't much, like, clearing up stuff in here, so much as, yeah, we're leaving Afghanistan, and that's a good thing. But on the next thing, Secretary of Defense James Mattis, like Mad Dog Mattis, has resigned because of, I believe it happened before, chances are he probably knew about the Afghanistan thing as well as the Syrian thing, of pulling out troops, but he announced a resignation letter. He put it through, and he's going to resign as of February. Is when his like last time will be. But he left a message here, which it's good to see what he actually said instead of just hearing what other people have been saying that he said. So we're just going to read it right here. This was December 20th, which was yesterday. Dear Mr. President, I have been privileged to serve as our country's 26th Secretary of Defense, which has allowed me to serve alongside our men and women of the Department of Defense, of our citizens, and our ideals. I am proud of the progress that has been made over the past 2 years on some of the key goals articulated in our national defense strategy, putting the department on a more sound budgetary footing, improving readiness and lethality in our forces, and reforming the department's business practices for greater performance. Our troops continue to provide the capabilities needed to prevail in conflict and sustain strong U.S. global influence. Now, one core belief I have always held is that our strength as a nation is inextricably linked to the strength of our unique and comprehensive system of allies and alliances and partnerships. While the U.S. remains the indispensable nation in the free world, we cannot protect our interests or serve that role effectively without maintaining strong alliances and showing respect to those allies. Like you, I have said from the beginning that the armed forces of the United States should not be the policemen of the world. Instead, we must use all tools of American power to provide for the common defense, including providing effective leadership to our alliances. NATO's 29 democracies demonstrated that strength in their commitment to fighting alongside us following the 9/11 attack on America. The Defeat ISIS coalition of 74 nations is further proof. Now, one thing to remember, 74 nations, right there. Just to interrupt quickly. If we leave, it's not like there's going to be a vacuum. There are plenty of other countries there. There is Russia. There is There's a lot of European countries, and remember, like, people will get automatically like, oh, we shouldn't let Russia have power, but remember that Russia, for the most part, shares the same goal with us in terms of terrorism is bad. Now, as for them actually funding terrorists, I have no idea if they have any ties to that, but remember that for a lot of this, like, usually what happens is that we oppose one group, and we start funding other groups that turn out to be terrorists, and it's not as simple as it sounds here. It's a very big mix of supporting people, and then those people turn against us, because there really is no one here with their hands clean. As far as I can tell, I've heard lots of good things about the Kurds, and overall they're not, like, they're an ally of ours, and they seem to be pretty good people from what I understand. They just want their own country. But overall, remember that a lot of people are talking about, we need to take down Assad. Well, really the two biggest forces in Syria have been Assad and ISIS. As in, that's now not the case. ISIS is a lot weaker, but those were the two biggest forces. And it was all down to, like, you got to remember that we're not really anyone here with their hands clean. Everyone here is pretty awful. Like, Assad is no angel, but he's better than ISIS, and that's generally how it's been. Like, we have been fighting with Assad against ISIS, and so has Russia. And when people go on about how, like, oh, this is helping Russia, like, I already did this in another video, so I'll wrap up quick. When people go on about, oh, we're fighting Russia, like, we don't want to start another war. Well, like, you have to remember that we're not pro-war. We can't be pro-war in this. And Russia's not talking about conquering the Middle East. When it comes to being the world's policeman, like, it's just not something, like, why is that our job? Why is this something that we need to do? And every time I see us funding people, it seems that, like, we are doing more harm than good. Because when people say, like, we made our mess, now we just need to stay in there and fix it. Well, remember, like, what mess are we causing now by staying there? Because you got to remember Al-Qaeda, for example. The U.S. has funded Al-Qaeda. Like, if I remember right, I have heard this. I have not fact-checked it, so I will say this with, like, it could not be true. But I have heard that it seems to me that the only nation, the only, like, big European or, like, big global power that has funded Al-Qaeda has been the United States. And same thing when it comes to ISIS. Now, I have no idea who is funding ISIS, but I know the U.S. is funding ISIS, not necessarily directly, but more as, like, we fund allies of ISIS who are allies with us, who then, like, provide resources to ISIS. So it's that where, like, who are we actually fighting is the big question. Anyway, back to this. Similarly, I believe we must be resolute and unambiguous in our approach to those countries whose strategic interests are increasingly in tension with ours. It is clear that China and Russia, for example, want to shape a world consistent with their authoritarian model, gaining veto authority over other nations' economic, diplomatic, and security decisions, to promote their own interests at the expense of their neighbors, America, and our allies. That is why we must use all the tools of American power to provide for the common defense. My views on treating allies with respect and also being clear-eyed about both malign actors and strategic competitors are strongly held and informed by over 4 decades of immersion in these issues. We must do everything possible to advance an international order that is most conducive to our security, prosperity, and values, and we are strengthened in this effort by the solidarity of our alliances. Because you have the right to have a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours on these and other subjects, I believe it is right for me to step down from my position. The end date for my tenure is February 28th, 2019, a date that should allow sufficient time for a successor to be nominated and confirmed, as well as to make sure the department's interests are properly articulated and protected at upcoming events to include congressional... Well, that's not good. No, there it is. To include congressional posture hearings and the NATO Defense Ministerial meeting in February. Further, that a full transition to a new Secretary of Defense occurs well in advance of the transition of Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in September in order to ensure stability with the department. I pledge my full effort to a smooth transition that ensures the needs and interests of the 2.15 million service members and 732,079 Department of Defense civilians receive undistracted attention of the department at all times so that they can fulfill their critical round-the-clock mission to protect the American people. I very much appreciate this opportunity to serve the nation and our men and women in uniform. Signed, James Mattis. Now, I guess, I want to say stuff because I know a little bit about foreign policy, but I'm no expert, so at the same time I'm kind of holding back. But I guess another thing you have to remember when it comes to this is, like, there's no benefit to be here. When it comes to, there are really two different stories I've heard. One that ISIS tends to be, like, that ISIS is both, or not ISIS, just them, but more Islamic terrorism in general. Like, why is there such thing as Islamic terrorism, Islamic terrorism in, like, Western countries? And half of that is because they hate us for our freedoms, as much as I hate to say that. And the other half is because we are invading them and we are attacking them and all that stuff. So it's more of, it is in a sense a bit of retaliation. That I'm not justifying what they're doing, obviously. Like, I'm not justifying terrorist attacks, but usually when they attack us, it's in retaliation. Though I won't ignore entirely that this is something that libertarians are both right on and wrong on, in which they're right in that they are doing it because they are retaliating against us. But they're wrong in that if you read, I have not read them, but according to people that have read them, if you read the propaganda and magazines put out by Daesh, or however it's pronounced, but in other words ISIS, if you read their actual like newsletters and stuff they write, they say it's not just like, yes, we are retaliating against attacks. Yes, you are attacking us. That is secondary. The primary reason we are attacking is because you are not Islamic. That is what they do say. Like, it's because you are different from us. It's because you don't have Sharia law and that stuff, and for that reason, we will strongly oppose you. So that is something worth remembering, that there really does seem to be two reasons. However, I don't think bombing people is the solution. I think retaliation against terrorism is good, but it seems that we often make way more allies than enemies when it comes to interfering in the Middle East. Because you got to remember that if we say we bomb something, we bomb some city or some town, and it turns out that we killed like 6 different civilians, we got to remember that those civilians that had nothing to do with radical Islam, they were just regular people. You got to remember that those 6 people that died had families. They might have brothers, and they might have brothers that realize there's nothing, not necessarily realize, but brothers that decide that there's nothing better to do than to attack, nothing better to do than to join the organization that is fighting the force that killed their relative. And that's what it all comes down to. Like, it's there. I'm trying to think of the best way to word this, but it's down to it's not helping. I'll just put it that way. It's not helping that we are. It seems that no matter what, there's an enemy to fight in the Middle East, and it's like, if we haven't done it by now, like, when are we gonna leave? Like, that's what I want, really, is a date. I want a date. And obviously, like, when you're fighting an enemy, you can't really predict exactly when your victory is, but I need some kind of thing, like some kind of, we need to be out by then, and we need to be out by this time. That's what it all comes down to. But we'll go on to our next thing, which is building the wall. This is something that I want to clear up a little bit of. This is something, it's a GoFundMe page to build the wall, to fund the wall. And if I remember right, the original funding goal was $200 million. It has since been raised to $1 billion. Now, the numbers keep changing, obviously, as people donate, but the number is up to $11 million. Over the past 4 days, 179,710 people have donated up to, or nearly, $11 million for the wall. And now, it all comes down to, now, I don't have the numbers before, so I don't know what the number was on day 1 or day 2. So obviously this is an exponential thing. It's not just a straight linear curve. It's that the last 24 hours there's been a lot more funding than day 1 or day 2. So I'm making a linear prediction, or making a linear assumption here, and I want to state, obviously it's not linear, because a month from now, the donations a month from now will be much lower than the donations right now. Because people, like the people that want to donate, are donating now. This is when it's in the news. This is when people are talking about it. So I don't think it'll reach its goal. But if it were to reach its goal, maintaining at this pace, it would take roughly a year, 364 days. It would take roughly a year of constant donations like this, raising $11 million every 4 days to reach a year. So I don't think this is going to get funded. I don't think this whole GoFundMe thing is going to work. But I think the point to remember from this is how expensive things are. Because remember, this is $1 billion here. This is $1 billion that if everyone donated, you had 180,000 people donating. They donated $11 million, and it's still going to take a whole year before they get to $1 billion. I'm not just talking about the wall here, but I'm saying, remember that out of all of these donations, like, that's a lot of money. These are a lot of people that have been donating. But you have to remember that this is $1 billion, and the U.S. government's budget is something around $4 trillion. I believe it's about $3 trillion. I think 3.1, but I could be wrong. $3 trillion. Now, remember that the $1 billion is not even 1% of that. So really, the whole point of me just pointing this out is to say, think about how much money the government is spending, and how much. Realize that all of that is coming from the taxpayers. And interest on the debt, obviously, but in the end, it all comes down from taxpayers. So I'm making the case right here for lower taxes, because holy crap, that's a lot of money. But anyway, rambling on, the next thing is the bump stock thing, which I actually did another video on, but I'm not going to post, because it's already been 2-3 days. It's old news. I think I rambled a bit too much, as I'm doing right now. But just to summarize quickly, because I wanted to make a video just because, to get it out of the way, because I know people are gonna like might attack me like 2 years from now and like, why didn't you say this under Trump? Why didn't you say it was bad? Like, this is bad. I oppose the ban on bump stocks. I get that it's a minor thing. Like, he's not even banning a gun. He's more banning something that turns it into an automatic rifle. He's banning something that you can customize with a rubber band or 3D printing, stuff like that, where really it's not much. But for that reason, I oppose it. Like, I oppose any of these regulations, whether it's Trump or Obama. I want to get that out there, that I oppose it. And what the rule actually is, it's not so much just writing like what does it actually mean? What's the actual legislation say? Well, what they're doing is they're saying that a bump stock, like if you attach a bump stock to a gun, it is now classified as a machine gun. Before it wasn't. Now it's classified as a fully automatic rifle, and therefore falls under the same regulations as a fully automatic rifle. And that's essentially what that does. But yeah, I just want to get that out there, that I'm opposed to that before people go after me for it. But the next thing, about the wall and all that. But House passes spending bill with $5 billion border wall funding, increases likelihood of shutdown. Now, everyone's saying like, oh, the wall's funded. Like, oh, the wall's not. The wall is not funded. Like, although I'm pretty sure, I couldn't find this when I looked at it, but so I couldn't find the source. But I'm pretty sure I just remember seeing like a year and a half ago that the wall was already funded. Like that something like a year and a half ago, information came out that showed that there was actually a bill a while back that funded the wall. There was just no act to actually build it. I could have swore I found that, but I can't find it now. So again, don't take that as truth, but I'm pretty sure I saw that. But yeah, the wall's not funded because it says right here, House passes spending bill. Now this is still pre-midterms. Like, even though the midterms have happened, like, we're still in the Congress before the midterms. That actually doesn't take place until January. The switching up doesn't take place till January. So what that means is the House, which is still majority Republican, passed the spending bill, but the Senate, which, even though it's still majority Republican, it's very, like, I think it's 52, if I remember right, but it's not enough to get something easily passed. So most likely this will be rejected. It all comes down to the pressure on government funding, or the pressure on government shutdown. It all comes down to, if they reject this bill, there will be a shutdown, and more. And besides the shutdown, they have pretty much every reason to reject it. So I believe it was Schumer backed down before, and now it's all up to that. But just something to point out: the wall is not funded. That still has to go through the Senate, and I'm not going to make a prediction because I honestly don't know, because this is something that any other day the Senate would easily reject, and that'd be pretty much it. But this is because I believe you need 60 votes, and we have 52, something like that. If I remember, don't quote me on that. I believe that's how that works. But anyway, but the thing that you can quote me on is that the wall is not funded. Like, that still has to get this. It is not even half funded, because that implies that it's raised half the money. But it's still in the process. And who knows what'll happen here? Like, who knows? It's all down to, yes, it would fail any other day, but there's a government shutdown, so it all depends on, are they going to back down, or like it's all down to who knows what's going to happen. But we'll see in a few days. But that's pretty much it. That's just me going through the news very quick, which very quick turned out to be 18 minutes, a bit too longer than I wanted, and a lot of rambling. But it's just such a few things that I wanted to get through. Was just, yes, the wall's not actually funded. The bump stock thing, I want to put out that, yes, I'm opposed to that. Pulling out of Afghanistan, Mattis resigning, all these different things, reading the actual letter, because I know people are looking for that, and that's what you want to read, the actual letter, and the reasons why. Because CNN put out something that said, it's a rejection of Trumpism, and it's like, well, what do they mean by Trumpism? It's a rejection of Middle Eastern intervention, I guess, which, in the sense, like, I guess I'm glad Mattis is gone, because if he wanted more intervention, that's something I oppose. And remember that was what he campaigned on. That was what Trump campaigned on, was leaving the Middle East, was getting in there, defeating ISIS, and then leaving. And we've pretty much done that. I mean, did we technically defeat ISIS? It's like, oh, it all depends on what you count. Does ISIS still exist? Yes. We got to remember that when we leave, we're not leaving a vacuum. We're leaving the Kurds. We're leaving Assad. So we still got, like they can handle that, I think. And there are still other countries that are intervening there as well. I believe the UK is interfering, and Russia's obviously in there as well, backing Assad. So it's not like there's going to be a power vacuum this time. I assume that what's going to happen is Assad's going to take back his territory. That's essentially what's going to happen. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.